Hi, I am Stephanie J. Block.
And I'm Mary Lee Fairbanks.
And you are listening to Season 4 of Stages Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and beyond the resume.
Join us as we talk to some of the greatest talents from theater, TV, film, and more. And then check out stagespodcast.net for past episodes, merch, and so much more. And love where you are now. I think we need to do the Muppet Show live, and Stephanie and I are the old grumpy men in the box.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
Girl, that would be so fun.
Gender flip. What are their names? Do you know their names, John? I can't remember.
Statler and Waldorf.
Statler.
But you know, here's the twist. They talked about their wives, and we saw their wives in one episode. So we could play their wives.
Yes, please.
Oh my gosh.
I have to remember what your wives' names were, but I think you guys could totally do it.
We have to do it.
Immediately I come to be Arthur. I'm making a dream board. It's coming together. It's happening.
Stephanie, we are doing this. We're doing this. Okay.
Everything's happening. Back to be Arthur.
Doesn't it though? Doesn't it?
Yes.
Oh, the lounge pantsuits, they're back. The deep husky voice, they're back, guys.
I will tell you one thing about Muppet fans is that all of us tend to be Golden Girls fans as well. I think there's some.
That's so interesting.
I know. It's characters, right? Great characters.
It is. That's right.
You put Blanche Devereaux and Miss Piggy in a room together. Like,
they're the same. They're the same.
Like, they're in the same world for sure.
The 2004 Tony Awards is a very vivid memory for me. The season was packed with fabulous new musicals, some splashy, innovative, star-studded musicals. And that season was my Broadway debut in The Boy from Oz. A lot of dear pals of mine and past castmates of mine were performing Wicked over at the Gershwin. Caroline or Change, starring Tanya Pinkins, was creating a huge buzz. And over at the Golden Theater, there played Avenue Q, a hilarious and touching parody of Sesame Street with current adult social commentary. It was a wide array of art that season. The opening number for the Tony Awards that year was Hugh Jackman singing and dancing with the Rockettes, no less, the song One Night Only, and it was a cavalcade of stars. And the performance, or I should say the opening number, lasted over 4 minutes. Then we all gathered around Hugh for the final pose, and it was that image of the final pose that was printed on the cover of many of New York's written publications the next day. So my happy and yet garish face, because I had all my makeup done as Liza Minnelli, was smushed up behind Hugh Jackman, and I was surrounded by the cast of Avenue Q, and I thought, holy shit, I have really made it. I'm not kidding. That was like the epitome for me. That evening, Avenue Q took the big awards. It won Best Musical, Best Book, Best Score, and our guest today is a huge reason as to why that happened. John Tartaglia played and puppeteered 2 lead characters in that show in the roles of Princeton and Rod, for which he received a Best Leading Actor in a Musical nomination. John joined Sesame Street's puppetry team at the age of 16, one of the youngest artists to ever do that. And by the age of 18 years old, he was a full-time part of the cast. In addition to puppeteering, his Broadway credits are that of fairy tale dreams, people. He was Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, Pinocchio and Puss in Boots in SHREK the Musical. He created and wrote an off-Broadway show called John Tartaglia's IMAGINOCEAN. It was sweet and vibrant and magical, and it was for audiences aged 2 to 8. That really touched my heart because there are very few vehicles or shows that direct their artistry to that young and very impressioned age. That creation earned John a Drama Desk Award nomination for Unique Theatrical Experience. And then in 2016, he created a series for PBS Kids called Splash and Bubbles. And this was one of Vivi's favorites because not only John's voice, but the rhythm of the show, it was soothing and yet invigorating at the same time. I can only assume that IMAGINOCEAN inspired a bit or a lot of that show. Today, John acts as creative supervisor for the beloved and classic Fraggle Rock series reboot, Fraggle Rock, Back to the Rock, which airs on Apple Plus TV. He is a respected mind and voice within the Jim Henson Company, helping to develop new and future television and live show projects. And he can also be heard every Sunday morning on SiriusXM on Broadway radio with the show Sunday Funday with John Tartaglia. He is kind, he is hilarious, charitable, widely creative, and we are so lucky to have him here with us today. Stages welcomes Mr. John Tartaglia. John Tartaglia to stage, please. John, can you please join us on stage?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like hearing my eulogy before. So beautiful. My God.
You better rest in power, John. You rest in power.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
And it barely touches the tip of the iceberg.
I mean,
Yeah.
16. We have to talk about that because that is, first of all, it's so cool that it was encouraged and that you had at 16 the guts to and the chutzpah to get out there and do that. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's a crazy story, but basically it all started because of a letter I wrote to Jim Henson when I was about 8 years old. And I had discovered Fraggle Rock right before that. And it was, I grew up in a showbiz family. I was always performing. I was always wanting to do musicals on stage. I remember my earliest memories have always been backstage or sitting in an audience. I mean, that's like the earliest thing I can remember because my mom's an actress and my dad was a musical director. So when they were married and when I was very young, I spent a lot of time at a theater with them. And so I always knew I wanted to perform. And then I found Fraggle Rock by accident. It was on HBO at the time. And if you were a kid, right, having HBO was a big deal. And so if you didn't have HBO, you couldn't watch Fraggle Rock. And my mom and I were staying at a motel on the way to Tennessee to see my grandmother. Free HBO, which was a big deal. And I remember my mom
classy joint.
That's right. Air conditioning and HBO. That's a classy joint.
And a Lincoln, a kind of a breakfast. And I remember that like my mom turned on the TV and Fraggle Rock popped up. Ironically, Gobo was the first puppet on screen, who of course I get to play now. And I remember distinctly seeing that show and just instantly being like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Right there, right there, right there. And so it started this instant obsession with puppets and Jim Henson and Muppets and puppetry. And, I was just absorbing everything I could find at that time. And it was a good time because it was when Jim was really doing a lot of like on camera stuff and behind the scenes stuff and really putting himself out there as a creator. And so there were a lot of like specials that happened to be on television at that time. And my mom took me to like Blockbuster Video and we'd like grab whatever VHSs I could find. So anyway, so it all started that. And I wrote him a letter. About a year later, I heard back, and it was this beautiful 8x10 photograph that he autographed for me, and a wonderful letter from his secretary saying that Jim would get my letter, and letters like mine are what make Jim do what he does. And so I just knew I had contact, and that was like the most exciting thing in the world. And then I almost got to be on the new Mickey Mouse Club. Do you remember the one with Justin Timberlake?
Heck yes. It was that, or what was the other one with Fergie?
Kids
Incorporated. K.
Yes.
Yes, honey. Yes, those are the two shows. I was like, I want that to be me.
Same. Kids Incorporated. It was like Martika was my first like.
Martika.
Let me get started. So yeah, that was like, it was that time, right? That 80s time of like that kind of entertainment. But I got a call. I was at school. I'll never forget this. I got a call to come to the principal's office. They're like, there's a woman on the phone for you. At this point, my parents were divorced. My mom was a single mom. So of course I got worried it was my mom. Pick up the phone, and it was this talent director from the new Mickey Mouse Club. And I was like, hello? And she's like, so I'm calling you. I don't even know how they got my school's number. It's so weird. But somehow they got in touch with me. And she said, we're going to have Jim Henson on as a guest for guest day when they had like the big celebrities on like Fridays, and they'd have a real kid interview them. And she said, and Jim recommended your name to us.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember just like almost passing out from the shock of that. And basically, over the next week, I had to compete against these like 30 other kids across the country. I had to write letters and send in, like a bio and send it a picture and all the things I would ask Jim Henson if I got to spend time with him. And it got down to me and one other kid, and I didn't get picked. And of course, I was devastated. But the fact that
Was
he
it Adina Menzel? Was the other kid Adina Menzel? Okay, just
Damn
had to
you,
clarify.
Gina. Damn you. No, it was actually a kid named Joe Apel who I have met. He came to my one-man show at Joe's Pub years ago, and he's like, I'm that kid. I'm the kid who beat you out. And I was like, oh my God. And we become friends, and it's so nice to like be like, you had that experience, I've had this experience.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so I didn't get to meet him. And then like not even a year later, he passed away.
Oh.
Wow.
Devastated. It was devastated. And then when I was about 12, I'm going to guess, or so, I wrote a letter to Kevin Clash, who was the original puppeteer of Elmo on Sesame Street, and Baby Dinosaur on Dinosaurs. Remember the show Dinosaurs? I was obsessed with that show.
They had really big heads and bulging eyes. Am I thinking of the
Yes.
correct thing? Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
and the Baby Dinosaurs was like, not the mama. That was the big thing.
Yeah, no.
I loved it. I was like, oh, it's like puppetry on this like amazing animatronics. So I became obsessed with that. I wrote a letter to Kevin, and he called my mom and basically was like, why don't you guys come to New York City and see us film Sesame Street? If this is what your son wants to do, come see it. So at like 13 or wherever I was at that point, we got to go to New York City. I got to be on the set of Sesame Street, see all the puppeteers, and we're having lunch. And I very kind of ballsy say to Kevin, because this is the height of like Elmo's success. This is the height of Dinosaur.
Yes.
Very, very busy person. I said, why did you call? Like, like what a kind thing to do. And he said, oh, well, Jim mentioned your name. He talked about you.
Oh my God.
And the floor just dropped out. And I always say that even though I never got to meet Jim, the fact that he was kind enough to, and oh, sorry, I said, well, what do you mean he talked about me? And Kevin said, well, he was looking out for like the next generation of puppeteers because he recognized the original
He
Muppeteers.
knew.
Exactly. And I had this confirmed years later by someone who used to be his assistant. I said, I've always, maybe this is just kind of something that like I've made up even more in my mind over the years. And I told her the story, and she's like, oh no, Jim would have totally done that. That's totally Jim.
Oh,
So even though I never met him, indirectly, he
changed your life.
Changed my life and is responsible for now being here. So it came from writing a letter at a very young age, and just, which I always tell people, I'm like, at 8 years old, no, now maybe at 46 I feel differently, but at 8 years old, I didn't have any thoughts in my head of like, oh, this person's too famous or this person's too busy or ever get. You believe so honestly that if you want a connection with somebody, you can have it. And I really
You didn't know the limitations.
No.
What you didn't know set you free.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he needs to know that I want to work for him,
Oh my God.
So that started it off. And so really it all came from that letter. And so I just feel very passionate that people are never limited by reality, and that truly, if you believe something strongly enough, it can happen. And you just have to have that blind optimism.
It's the power of the mind. Your life turns out to be what you think it's going to be. The power of the thoughts are so powerful. And so even when we say words like want or I hope, it's negative. When you don't understand the limitations, so you imagine everything, why
it's
can't
all there
it be?
for you.
It just happens. But do you still have the signed note and the letter from him and the picture?
It is somewhere in a storage unit, which is killing my heart because
it should be framed and on
I
your
know
wall.
I need to find it. But
Jim's looking over you.
I know, literally. Yeah, it's something that I just, I feel like, and that gesture, he probably took 7 seconds to sign it and then gave it to me. But that gesture gave me, everything and the thought that, oh, this person knows I exist, and like validated my dream.
Right.
Sometimes I think that we know our roadmap when we're born, and we forget the roadmap as we get older and the world tells us what our limitations are. I think you hear a lot of, especially, it happened to me. I heard Barbara Streisand's voice when I was 7 years old, and I was like, oh, I have to sing that. Like I have to know her and I have to sing that. And
I could do that.
Yeah. And I can do that. And it's only when people start telling you that you can't, or that it's hard, or that you start posing the roadblocks in front of your life. I think little kids especially are really tuned in to their dharma or their
Yeah.
roadmap or their contract or whatever you want to call it that we agree upon when we come here.
At that age, it's not a self-entitlement. It really is like an
Right.
open porthole to
Yeah.
they hear something, they see something, and it affects them so greatly. Something molecularly has changed in them, and they go, "Oh, why does that feel so different?" And
It's
that
like they
sort of
recognize it.
it's purposeful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That innocence
It's what you're
allows for
supposed to
a
do.
purpose. Yeah, not for an entitlement. It's really beautiful.
You have that spark of like that, like you're talking about, like that bug, right, or whatever whatever
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
call it. It's like you get that, like it catches your breath, and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to
Oh,
do that.
yeah.
It's funny. I'll
That's
often say that I know I'm on the right path when it feels like I'm remembering something instead of learning something.
Ooh, I love that. Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
something new will come to me and I'm like, oh no, I already know this. And now I remember. And it's that feeling, you know, and then you know, like, oh, that's a road that I'm supposed to be walking down. I feel that,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
often.
destined for you. Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
I want to talk about the power of puppetry because I believe it is completely underestimated in this community. I'm not kidding. The generalization would be like, "Oh, it's silly in a sense when it is not, or it is just for children in a sense when it is not." I remember watching Fred Rogers documentary and how he would use Daniel the puppet before the show to have children express their emotions or have really intimate conversations where these kids were not able to connect with another sort of, in quotes, human being. But all of a sudden they're disarmed and they're open when speaking with a puppet. Obviously,
Yes.
Jim thought the same thing with Sesame Street because, some of those conversations and the things that they would teach on that show, they're big life lessons that are coming out of these, fluffy haired alien creatures. And we're
Yes.
learning things. I remember even during the pandemic, they brought up social justice and racial justice through Sesame Street. And Vivi at that time was 5. And we sat her down. And for 2 hours, what this kid paid attention to and absorbed, it would have been a different conversation had it not been through
Yeah.
puppetry. And that's
Yeah.
powerful stuff.
It is, and I think the United States, I guess, is one of the only places where puppetry is considered primarily children's entertainment. There are so many other places around the world where puppetry is considered such a legitimate adult art form, and it's funny that we don't look at it that way. And I think Jim changed that, because the Muppet Show, for example, and it's hard to imagine this now in the age that we live in, but in the 70s when that show came on, it was the most popular thing in the world. And I'm not being, hyperbolic. Like it really was like the most like popular television series in the world.
I watched
We
it
were all
all the
touched by
time.
Sesame Street.
Yeah.
And the Muppet Show. I was obsessed with the Muppet Show.
And the Muppet Show was so, it wasn't written for children. It was for adults primarily, but it could be watched by kids. It could be watched by families, but the humor was very innuendo. It was very older. It was very, very sophisticated. But anyway, to your point though about with the power of puppetry, like that's why also like in the autism community, puppetry has been such a big part of it because it is a breakthrough. There are children with autism who cannot verbalize to their own parents. They have a hard time breaking through, and yet you put a puppet in front of them and all of a sudden for the first time those kids verbalize. So there is something about puppetry, and I find that even like doing Avenue Q, when I would go out and do interviews with Rod and do man on the street things with Rod, or do the most kind of closed off people talking as human to human would suddenly come alive and open up when I had that ridiculous character on my hand, even though they could see me and they knew I was right there and they heard it was coming out of my mouth. They for whatever reason, they let that inner child take over and they believed it. So there's something primal about it. And I wish I could. It's funny, people ask me all the time and I'm like, I don't know. I've said a few times in different places that I feel like puppetry is the last honest magic trick. Where there's no honest answer for it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I can reveal every other magic trick. I can tell you how the cup goes, the quarter goes through the cup. I can tell you how what's his name made the elephant disappear. I can't tell you why when I have a puppet on my hand, why the movements I'm doing make people completely and totally lose that inhibition. I don't know why. It's a magical thing.
Well, my most recent experience would be James Ortiz's Milky White. And the way Kanagawa brought that puppet to life and the reaction from audiences, which were all adults, Milky White got the biggest applause. She's the one that's getting the New York Times multi-page expose. Do you know what I'm saying? And we're seeing the magic.
I loved it. I loved it. And to your point, like you're seeing Kennedy there, who was so brilliant in the show. You're seeing him there holding the puppet.
Yeah.
Made out of cardboard and ping pong balls or whatever the genius was, and strings that we could see, and the audience was remarkably moved. It was Milky White that would
You're
take
like,
the
I'm
show.
belting my face off here, people.
I mean, no,
No. You know what? My
stage left over here.
Here's my theory about it. I think it's a conduit, almost like a wand. You know how people who work with energy, they'll use some kind of wand, like a pendulum or a wand.
Oh, sure.
And what it does is it takes all your energy and it puts it into a point. It focuses and it becomes a conduit for your energy to sort of communicate with other energies. And that's what a puppet feels like. It's on your right hand, which is the hand that we put out in the world. And it's like this conduit. So all your energy is coming to a pinpointed place. Instead of looking at the whole person where the energy can be big, it's pinpointed to this little spot. And I think it becomes almost more powerful. Isn't that
That's interesting?
It kind of occurred to me as you're talking about it. I'm like, it's like a pin, like a magic wand, like a conduit or a pendulum.
I also think it's twofold. I think first of all, I think puppets are abstract, right? So we can project anything onto them, right? Especially when they're they're blue with a giant green nose and orange hair. Like, anyone can relate to that. It doesn't say I am this particular person or not.
Oh,
so I think it's a beautiful open abstract form to project things onto. But I also think that people want to use their imaginations more than in this, especially digital, everything is given to us world. So to your point, Stephanie, about Milky White, we as an audience projected all of our emotion onto that character. Even though you can see her inner workings, you can see the handle where he's holding the puppet. I think we want to have our imagination sparked a little bit more, and puppetry makes you do that.
It becomes every dog we ever loved, every cat we ever loved. Yeah, it becomes every animal we ever related to. And exactly.
Another thing I think we underestimate, and if you can explain to our listeners, is the physicality and the exhaustion of of puppetry, right? I know, I mean, all y'all with the biceps and the shoulders and the wrist exercises, and I can only imagine, but maybe a lot of our listeners do not know what that entails.
It's very physical, especially doing Henson style puppetry where we're above our heads all day and below camera. And it's funny, I whenever I go to like a new massage therapist, it's always hilarious to like, as they're like doing like the first time they're working on my back, I can always feel it. There's always a moment where they kind of stop for a second, like on my like upper right side. You can tell they're like, what the, and literally I'm just like, oh, I'm a puppeteer. They're like, got it. But it's like the whole side of my upper back that has what I call legacy knots. They're like knots that will never go away. They've been there since I was like 18. But no, it is a very physical thing, and it's because you're using your body in a way that probably it wasn't really designed for, and you're putting a lot of weight and usage on your appendages and holding them out in an odd way, and you feel it in different places. Like my lower back gives me problems now, and I remember I had a really great body person and he made me show him how I would hold myself when I do puppetry. Avenue Q style or Muppet style. He's like, oh no, he's like, your lower back is making up for all the things you're doing wrong with your upper back to do what you need to do. And I was like, wow. Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a very physical thing. And when we're on set, when we're filming a TV show like a Fraggle Rock for 6 months, and you're just going and you're going and you're going, it's really, you have to almost treat yourself like an athlete. Like I would force myself to go to the gym when we were wrapping, even though I was exhausted, because I was like, no, I want to make sure my muscles aren't falling into an unhealthy place because of the work I did today. So
Yeah.
it's a very different kind of body exhaustion, but it's just, yeah.
I thought that when I was looking at your videos, I was like, I wonder how much time he spends at the chiropractor, because you're always, yeah, I mean, really, you're always up and like that. That's nuts. You
Yeah.
have to like do the equal and opposite, go to bed doing this arm up.
Yeah. Well, I remember Carol Spinney, who was the original Big Bird and a hero of mine and one of the kindest people you could ever work with. I got to work with him for years on Sesame Street. He, did Big Bird for what, 40 years, whatever it was. And he would always have his hand over his head. That's how he did Big Bird's head. And he had this like really impressive, I think he was in his 70s when I started there, or maybe 60s. But he had this really impressive right arm bicep, and then this left arm bicep really wasn't that impressive.
Just an arm.
It was
Like
so
a chicken
funny.
wing.
Like this uneven thing, and and he would explain to people, be like, "Oh, I play Big Bird." They'd be like, "Got it." But, like,
I asked Sarah Rule this, and she set me straight. But I said, "Gosh, are there many poets out there anymore? What is the poetry world like? It seems like perhaps a dying breed." And she straight up corrected me and said, "No, it's actually very vibrant. There's a lot of us out there."
yeah.
Same with puppetry. Okay.
Absolutely. And in fact, if anything, I would say because of The Lion King and because of Little Shop and because of Avenue Q and because of, of course, just the legacy of the Muppets, and it's like the cool thing to take on. And I think theater puppeteers, especially, there are so many theater puppeteers now, and it's exciting because growing up at a time when it was not, I can't think of another person except for a person, my ex-girlfriend actually from high school, who we ended up meeting at 16. She was a puppeteer too. I was like, oh my God,
you're for me, I'm for you.
Yeah, like, there's other reasons that didn't work out. But we had this like bond, like, you're a puppeteer, me too. Like, it was such a weird thing. Like, no one said they wanted to be a puppeteer. But and now I feel like it's, because there's so many college productions of Avenue Q. So I think it's become, thanks to the American theater, it's become much more legitimized. And I think that there's people who now go, oh, like, I could do that. Maybe I don't know where I fit in as a musical theater performer. Am I the leading lady? Am I the character? But oh wow, you know what? I could maybe use puppetry as a way to find a character or to come to life. And I think that's really cool and really exciting, honestly.
Do you find that it's easier for you to do a character because you have this puppet? Is it more freeing to express parts of yourself that maybe you can't express when you don't have the puppet?
Oh, sure. I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of the most famous puppeteers, there's elements of your personality, whether you're a shy person or whether you are, we're just taught not to be a certain way or whatever.
Right.
You get to let out. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think with Rod from Avenue Q, I mean, I got to say things I would never say.
Oh my gosh, what you all got away with was it was why I took my mom, and she looked at me and her mouth was dropping, and she goes, "How are we still sitting here?" I was like, "It's amazing." She goes, "It's a fine line, Stephanie." She actually was smart enough to use a line that's in the show. But yes, no human being would ever broach some of the things that these puppets were allowed to say. And then we would laugh and look at each other like, should we be laughing? Is this allowed to laugh? But that's why it was conceived.
And it's funny because we you have to remember it was 2003, which isn't that long. I mean, it's 21 years ago, which is
crazy, right?
But it was 21 years enough back to that there were still things that were taboo to talk about at that time. And I remember hearing the way the audience would nervously giggle when we started Everyone's a Little Bit Racist. It was like they weren't sure if it was okay to laugh because they were both in shock and intrigued. Like, they were like, there was so many different emotions happening at the same time. And then of course they went along with it and they saw that, that what we were saying, what we were trying to get across. But my favorite part of doing that show was when I got to take the characters out of the show and do like a live interview or do,
Man on the Street.
And I remember I did an interview with Rod and on like a local television station. And the news anchor behind the scenes was just not a very pleasant person. He was very grumpy and was really rude. I have I have a huge problem with rudeness
And kindness. Yeah.
and kindness. It sets me off. To me, it's like it's just inexcusable. No one deserves to be treated that way. And I was watching him talk to the crew guys just horribly. So, he made the mistake of doing this interview with Rod. And because I had Rod on my hand, I tortured this guy. And it was so fun and it was so funny. And the crew was dying. If you watch it, you would not know that this guy was a jerk behind the scenes, of course.
Right.
But it was like my way of kind of like, and again, I would never do that as myself.
No, you'd never call him out,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
Rod would.
hate conflict. I hate conflict. I like everyone to get along, but I was just like, oh, I'm gonna get you. So I used Rod to basically call him out. Like, and I was saying things like, well, you are so loving to everybody here, aren't you? You are fine. Oh, is he beloved, everybody? Like, just and it was just enough that it was like, but again, and he went along with it, by the way. He laughed. He thought it was hilarious. He didn't understand that I was totally poking him.
Most of them don't. Most of those egomaniac, narcissistic guys or gals, doesn't matter, don't. They're like,
They don't
they're talking about
recognize
everybody else but me.
Yeah, it felt good to me. I was like, I got my puppetry worked my emotions out.
So funny. Tell me a Muppet mishap. Tell me something that was crazy that happened, like a real blooper or something nuts.
Oh God, all the time. I mean, I think that's my favorite thing is we actually put out a blooper reel from our first season from Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock because which there's never been we never did before with Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock, the original series, they were very protective of, and rightly so.
Yeah.
But we were like, you know what, people need to see that like we had just as much fun making the show as you see on screen. And so there's always things like eyeballs flying off is always hilarious. The Fraggles are actually made so that their limbs snap on and off, so we can quickly change things out. So, so many times where like, Gobo would make a gesture and his arm would just
straight off.
yeah. Things like that are just, I live for those kinds of moments. And, and of course, because we're all under the camera, there's, you're looking at these beautiful, like, 18-inch puppets and you believe that world, but you forget that there's like, 5-foot something people standing underneath and operating. So every now and then when the camera would just catch the tops of our heads and all of a sudden it looks like we'll have like dogs telling them. I mean, just little silly things like that. I love those moments. They're my favorite. They really are.
How large is the cast, John?
We have a cast of 25 puppeteers.
Wow.
Show, and that's
double cast for a lot of them. Do they play multiple roles?
Yeah, our principal 7 puppeteers play a bunch of different roles, and then we have another group of like 4 to 5 puppeteers, mostly from Toronto, who are unbelievably talented, and they also do all these wonderful supporting roles and jump around. And then we have an additional group of about 13 puppeteers that are based in Calgary. They're all from around the Calgary, Canada area.
Oh, that's cold. When do you guys film?
We filmed mostly during the winter.
Oh
and
my gosh.
I legitimately got frostbite for the first time in my life. And I literally never, I was like, oh, I'm from the East Coast. I know.
Right. How cold can it be? Oh, Calgary's.
It was the coldest thing I've ever, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain to people until you feel it, and right. I remember our first season, I made the stupid mistake of going out. It was -21.
Oh my gosh.
And my fellow producer, who's one of my dearest friends, and I went to go get coffee. And this is during the pandemic when everything was like, you still couldn't go inside. You could get your food, your drink, you had to go outside. So we're standing outside having our coffee. And I remember being like, I can't feel my feet. And she's like, oh, cool. I was like, no, I legitimately can't feel them. Like they're gone. And I got home and I took off my shoes and my feet were literally like movie blue.
Oh man.
And I called the doctor and they're like, you're lucky. They're like, but you have like stage 2 frostbite. And
oh my, all for a double shot of something latte macchiato. Hells bells.
But yeah, it was really, I mean, my eyelashes would freeze and it was crazy.
Why are you filming there?
We filmed well, first of all, the original series was shot in Toronto. It had this very Canadian feel to it. Gobo, the character I perform, has a very distinct Toronto accent if you listen to the show. And that was Jerry Wilson, who performed Gobo, was not from Toronto, but he was like, well, we're shooting here. I think it makes sense for Gobo to have that flair. And the show just had Canadian a DNA to it. It's like if you look at like all the Uncle Matt pieces, you'd see like Canadian street signs or
oh sure, yeah.
Yeah, so it felt like it was important to shoot it there to honor that spirit of the show. And Calgary's really become this amazing new mecca for film and television production. They have amazing studios there, amazing crew, the best crew I've ever worked with. They were the most
Mm.
dedicated, loving.
And they too are kind. I don't know what to say.
Oh,
Canadians are
they are,
remarkably kind.
because the crew primarily they did a lot of location stuff. One of the reasons people shoot in Calgary is the gorgeous, mountainsides, and you're right by Banff and all this. It's
Mm.
beautiful. So the crew was happy to be inside, and I remember the first week of shooting, we started with Doc and Sprocket. Doc, who's our Lily Cooper from Broadway, amazing Lily Cooper. The first couple of days of rehearsal, the puppet wasn't out yet, and we were talking and I remember the first time I brought the puppet out, it was like you just watched all of these like gruff guys just melt, and they're like,
Oh.
in Canada, Fraggle Rock was on public television, their equivalent of public television there. So everyone grew up with Fraggle Rock in the 80s there. So it's such a, yeah. So that crew is just, they're family. They're the most wonderful group of people I've ever worked with. I love them dearly.
Are there any original pieces from Fraggle Rock that have made it to Back to the Rock?
Yes, some of the original, not the principal puppets, all the principal puppets were rebuilt because they just wear out, but some of the original background puppets from the original series, they were built so beautifully that we pulled them out of storage thinking like, oh, this is going to fall apart. Pulled them out of storage and they needed a little bit of touch up, but they were usable. So it's really exciting to have pieces of that legacy as a part of the new series, and the fans love it because there's like Easter eggs to find,
Of
right?
course.
And we love it as performers because we all grew up with it. So it's like you're putting on a puppet that like one of your heroes that performed.
That's so cool. Do you design your own puppets?
We don't. We have these amazing, the Jim Henson Creature Shop in New York and in LA do all the designing in the building. And some of the people that are there worked on the original Fraggle Rock. And so they amazing. And it is that kind of like, artistic knowledge of like, there's patterns and there's of course all these things that are catalogs, but they're like, yeah, but we did, I remember the second season we clipped here, we did this so that the nose looks more like this. It's amazing, like maker knowledge that you only get from the experience of having done it, but the craftsmanship that they would do, and how fast they would turn things around. Sometimes we would throw things at the last minute. A script gets rewritten and you'd be like, oh, we need 6, I don't know, springy things, and they'd be like, got it. And then the crew in Calgary, the puppet crew in Calgary, would stay up all night making them. And it was just this, everyone was working at their highest level to make the show. And that's what you dream about, right? Is that everyone feels like they want to give the best work they can give.
And when you see the puppet, does the voice just occur to you? Like you see him and you go, oh, this is what they'll sound like.
Sometimes, yeah, it's funny. I mean, occasionally it's part of the scripting, right? It'll say has a New York taxi driver sound to it or something. But a lot of it comes from as you're learning to be a puppeteer in this Henson style, you're learning how fast you have to think. And on Sesame Street, which is the best training in the world, because I always say, like, on Sesame Street, you have like your principal cast, right? You have your Big Bird and Elmo and Cookie Monster, but you also have like your SNL featured players, which is what I really was, where it's like the mailman for one episode, or a chicken, or the letter Q, or a sheep, like you never know what you're going to play every day. And you have to think fast, and you have to come up with a voice fast, and you have to think about what's going to work for the comedy fast. And Jerry Nelson, who played Gobo originally, and he was the Count on Sesame Street and Harry Monster. Truly a legend, and I got to work with him for a few years. He would talk about how the look of the puppet would inform the voice he would pick. He was a brilliant comedy and voice performer. He just understood it, and he could switch instantly. And so I'd watch him when I was starting there when I was younger. I'd watch him pick up a puppet that had a giant mouth and maybe big eyes, and he'd be like, he would just instantly go to, well, the puppet talks like this, or like one of those little we call them anything Muppets, but those little like pink puppets with a little teeny mouth and giant ears, and maybe talk a little more like this. Yeah, and it was amazing to watch how his brain would go, this is what I'm saying in the script, this is what the puppet looks like, boom, here's the character.
Yeah.
That training helps us kind of look at the character and kind of instantly start somewhere. It evolves and you change, but That's usually what gets you started.
You're
fun.
talking, and I am decisively loving puppets more than people. I've learned this about
Me too.
myself now. I
I'm sitting
think
here
I
going,
like puppets
I want
more
to be a
than
puppeteer
people.
now too.
It's like dogs, right? It's like people like some
Yes.
dogs more than people. I get it. I mean, it's how could you not love it?
How
You know?
could you not? On your website, I was so intrigued about now the towel animation theater that you have through Carnival Cruise Lines.
Yeah.
Right. And I can remember I've been on a couple of cruise ships and they'll take your towel, your bath towel, and they'll roll it up and create like some sort of swan or dog or elephant. And you're like, this is amazing. And
Yes.
inevitably, kids, I'm sure will want to reenact that. And just through the making of something and putting on a personality, same thing with Reusable the Musical. I love that too. Like using objects and items that we might necessarily go, oh, let's throw that out. No, you can bring it to life in so many different. We use egg crates for so many things, y'all. We just
Yes.
did Easter crafts where we use the nose, and then they could be eyes, for things. So talk to me a little bit about that, about the next generation and using items around that we can bring to life in new ways.
Yeah, I mean that's how we all started as puppeteers was, just taking anything and turning into. I remember like my mom had this like really nice like milk pour.
Pitcher?
Yeah,
pitcher?
yeah, a pitcher with a little lid that like had like a hinge to it. But like, yeah, it's like I would take it and I would make it talk and it was kind of the age of Beauty and the Beast, so I would take it and like Mrs. Potts it up. But I think it fuels imagination and it makes you create out of nothing, which I think is something. And in this time we live in where everything is given to us and everything is done for us and everything is available for kids, it's so important to have that. I call it board time.
Yes.
Board time.
Be boring. Yes.
I think all of us became performers that we are because we had board time where we had to make something and create something and imagine something. I love anything that kind of inspires kids to look at something different and pick it up and do something, whether it's a puppet or not. Even if you're turning egg crates into awesome buildings to be knocked down, whatever. Like I think as long as you're using something that's a found object or an everyday thing to create something magical, I think that fuels your mind and your imagination. And I think we're scared of that quiet time these days.
I agree.
I think that's totally true. It's
think
totally true. But when my son was very small, I used to lie down with him every night before we go to bed, and we would just, talk or read a book or whatever. And I used to do a hand puppet. And we'd call her Meep, and he'd be like, "Is Meep here?" And I'd be like, "I don't know. Let me check." And I'd look under the covers, and then I would turn the sheet into the Muppet, and he would just talk to Meep. And it was sort of like
Meep is my grandmother's nickname, or was my grandmother's nickname.
No way.
Yes.
MEEP?
I love that.
MEEP, yeah. I've never heard anybody use that name before, so you just made my heart so happy.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, I'm all welled up now. He used to ask for Meep. Like, I think if he had a challenging day or he just couldn't sleep or something scared him, and he'd be like, "Can I talk to Meep?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's see if Meep." And that would be how he'd fall asleep, just chatting with Meep. It was like I wasn't even there anymore. And it's very powerful. Very powerful.
A lot of therapists use it, for kids to open up, and again, it's a bizarre thing. It's like a primal instinct we have to like open up to these creatures and to let ourselves. I mean, I don't know. I think it's also like when you see adults go to Disneyland or Disney World, right? I mean, we're very aware. I don't want to spoil the magic for anybody, but we're very aware of how Mickey's being brought to life, and yet, I know. I'm sorry, and we all lose our minds, right? Like I still get that way.
Of course,
anyone's very aware of it. I'm so aware of it, but I'm just like, oh my God, I believe it's Mickey. Like it's something about our we actually have a want to hold on to that. And I hate when people say childish. It's not childish. It's a child. It's your inner child. Like your inner child. It should never be let go. I think that's what drives us ultimately. It's an important part of staying open to the magic of the world as we get older and as we become adults and go through horrible things as adults. I think that inner child is underrated for what can get us through and keeps us optimistic and innocent. You
don't have any children yet, do you?
I don't.
Wait, you're going to be an awesome dad.
Thank you. I feel like I feel like I'm so lucky to do what I do because I feel like I get to make things that hopefully in a positive way impact,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
shaping our
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And that's, I
Yeah.
mean, my God, like that's the greatest privilege in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And as a Broadway performer and a mom with Imagination, were you welcomed? I desperately think our community needs more venues and needs more properties that speak to the younger audience. I don't know why they don't exist. I think we have like the gazillion bubble show, which is so entertaining, right? The parents go and we're like, that's fun. We're a little sloppy and soapy when we walk out, but it's so fun. But for some reason, I don't know if we're not pitching these ideas to producers and theater owners, but I feel like if we can get those younger bodies into a seat and not have them sit there for 2.5, 3 hours with some
Yeah.
content that isn't necessarily for them, but a beautiful 90-minute, entertaining, beginning, middle, and end that speaks to them, it's going to spark not only imagination, but a love of the theater that's going to
Mhm.
continue on, right, as they grow
Mhm.
up and their children. Have you tried to pitch some of your beautiful ideas and what does that look like? Is it welcomed? Is it not? What are the obstacles there?
It's welcomed. I think it's twofold. I think, part of it is who's going to pay for it, right? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
reality of the theatrical endeavors. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to buy the tickets? Or people, there's that. But I also think that there's people who like look at children's theater as this lesser form of entertainment or as like a cheap or as a schlocky kind of thing. And it really bothers me because, to
Yeah.
the point, I think back to some of the things I saw as a kid that was definitely children's theater or definitely, skewed towards kids. And it impacted me so deeply, so heavily. And I think we get so stuck as theater people with, I mean, I don't know. It's like New York audiences, right? We go with like this. We go with our arms crossed. We're ready to find everything wrong. Right.
Impress me.
Impress me because we
Mhm.
have access to the best, right? That
Mhm.
echelon is so high. And so we kind of come in with that attitude. So I think when it comes to children's theater, when it comes to anything that is made for families specifically, people walk in with that attitude. And it's funny to me
Mm.
because I feel like it's a place where that's not what it's about. It's not about is this book the best book ever written? Is this score the greatest score ever written? Is this, no, it's really about is this piece of theater giving kids and their families the interaction that they're there for, and is it giving them an experience that like you said heightens their imagination and makes them dream and makes them want and makes them imagine. If that's what it's doing, then it's achieving its goal. And to
You've
me,
won.
Right.
exactly. And I think that there should be more of that. I think that there's this weird, I don't know. This weird catch as if it's like if it's made for kids, it's suddenly cheap and tacky. I don't know. It's
Mm.
very interesting. I never got
Has
that with Imagination, which was shocking to me. Like people, I think because it would look so different because of the black light and because it glowed in the dark.
yeah.
I think there was a novelty to it that made that to let people let go of that. And I will say, the score for that, written by William Wade, the late William Wade, was so he really wrote the highest level. He didn't care if it was for kids or for adults or anything. So I think that also helped. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's shocking there's not more of that, especially considering, we want to build that next audience that's going to come
Yes.
for
Yeah.
Broadway,
In
you
the
know.
company, has there been talk of maybe the Jim Henson Theater off Broadway or something of that nature? Or do those worlds just don't seem to marry very well?
One of the things I get to do here at the company, and I'm so lucky that they trust me with this, is I co-head the theatrical division with Nicole Goldman, who's our head of branding and marketing. The two of us have kind of, or we're working together to create more live theatrical experiences from the Jim Henson Company. So we just announced we're going to do Fraggle Rock live on tour, which we're
Yay.
really, really, really excited about. And because when I was a kid, I grew up seeing Sesame Street live, and I remember
Yeah.
the feeling of, oh my God, the Sesame Street characters came to my hometown. They're here in front of me. They're within us. They're dancing in the audience. It's I'm just taking it easy, right? It's like such a powerful thing, and so to
Yeah.
have us do that, we're really excited about that. And yeah, we are looking at other theatrical experiences because I think everything we've talked about today, when you combine the power of live theater and the power of puppetry at a young age, it's just spark, 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 spark. It's like your imagination goes wild.
Oh,
Oh, I
you have
love it.
made me so excited about the magic of life and what you can create with the things around you. It's funny you mentioned Disney because we are actually at Disneyland right now at the
Oh,
glorious Holiday Inn at Disneyland.
yes.
But, we decided we're not doing genie passes. We are going to wait in line and we are going to be a family and we are going to, so for 2 hours we waited in line for Space Mountain. And again, that board time, not BOARD, but BORED. We had
Yep.
2 hours and we were creating and we were looking at our lanyards with our pins and we were making things with our sweatshirts and we were what you have to do with your brain when you're just standing there for 2 hours. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And
It
it's
was a
fighting the urge not to just stare at your phone, which I do.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
We don't know how to be
No,
bored anymore.
but out of it came
All
so
of
many
us.
laughs and so many memories. Like, did we want to wait in line for 2 hours? Absolutely not. But when I look back and go, oh my gosh, we were so silly, and the people next to us were annoyed by us, and we were embarrassed, and Vivi was embarrassed, but we made core memories in that bored
Yeah.
time.
You know what? I 15 years ago, I guess, or a little bit more, when I would go home, I'm Uncle John to nieces and nephews in my life. And this was the time where they could sit in front of the TV and watch any movie, like there weren't iPads yet, but they were digitally, everything was available to these kids. The one thing they wanted to do when I went home was have a treasure hunt and have Uncle John. And it was like, they wanted to play. They had access to that stuff and they enjoyed that stuff. But ultimately, there's still that want as a kid to create and make and do. And I think that it's hard to not fall into the trap of just, oh, give them something to watch. Oh, it's important to, like, to your point, like, to take those 2 hours, right, that you could have skipped, take those 2 hours and make it something that that she'll remember years from now.
It's in the doing. It's in the doing that connects the heart and the head.
Completely.
And then,
Completely. And then the physical action brings out all this mental creativity. I remember there was this day, Seb was probably 3 years old, maybe 3.5, and it was kind of icky out, kind of gray, and we were bored. And I was like, all right, let's find every paint bottle in the entire house. So that took 20 minutes, went from room to room, found every paint. Then we went out in the driveway and we dumped it all in the driveway to see what it would turn into. And it turned into this
Ooh.
house. And we painted this house on
That
the
still
driveway. Huge,
exists.
like 12-foot long house, all different colors. And then we made up a poem. There once was a house with a golden door where magic happened on every floor. We would just, make stuff up. But then we didn't want the rain to wash it away. So we went to the hardware store and we bought shellac and we poured shellac all over it to see how long it would last. It lasted almost a whole year. So the next spring, we went out and we got acrylic paint, tons of it. We repainted the whole house, all new colors, and then we added a tree with golden apples. The next year, again, house, tree, let's add the dogs. We did this until he was about probably 12 years old, 11 years old is when we stopped. It ended up taking up almost our whole driveway. And then I rewrote all the lyrics to Finishing a Hat, but I called it Finishing Our House. And I recorded the song Finishing Our House and put all the years of all the pictures of our house. And I gave it to him when he went into high school.
Oh, that is so sweet. And it's still there. Why do not your whole driveway, but it's definitely
it's still there. It's chipping away and up, but you can still see, like, is that a tree? And you're like, yeah, that's our tree with the golden apples.
That is so lovely. I mean, but again, right? Like, and what impact is that going to have and has had on his lives?
We will be right back with the 5 questions after a word from our sponsors. Okay. Mountain, beach, city, or desert?
Yeah, I would say the beach because I'm happiest at the water, and I don't know, I just that brings me the most peace.
The ebb and flow. If we were to walk into your closet, is there a garment or a piece of jewelry, something that you will never get rid of because of the memories it holds?
Oh my goodness, that's hard. Yes. I mean, there's a jacket that I have the very first time. I'm such a Disney nerd, such a Disney nerd. And I got to go, this is years and years ago, I got to do something with Imagineering. And I remember, like, I was like, I'm at Imagineering. Like, and I am that person who can tell you every fun fact about old school Disney and Imagineering and audio animatronics and the World's Fair. So they took me to the Imagineering store, and I got to buy this jacket that's only for Imagineers. And so I still have that.
Oh,
It's like, I don't know. I live in Los Angeles. I'm never gonna wear it. It's a winter coat, but I love it because it's just that memory of like, oh, I got to do that.
do you know that was well, one of my first jobs. I did a lot of jobs before I could actually of working age, but my mother forged my birth certificate when I was 15 to be in the summer parade with my sister. And my sister had worked there already a couple of years, and she was, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, ooh, what princess am I gonna be? And when you audition for the parades, they'll give you like a little index card which tells you what part you're gonna play. And it's
Oh,
getting
okay.
down to the wire, and the big board with all the index cards, they're dwindling down. And I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm not going to get a part. Then they hand me a card and it said Pfeiffer. And I went, oh, Princess Pfeiffer. Who is Princess Pfeiffer? And I got to be one of the three little pigs. And I would, for the whole summer in the 90-some degree heat when I'm underage already because we've lied on my birth certificate.
Right.
But I think now it will be a much more fancier thing if I tell people I was a puppeteer. I mean, I was wearing a
That's right.
head. I had to
You were
use
doing
my
full body
hand to
puppetry.
like oink the nose. Like I was manipulating this head to give it life. So therefore, I think my first job now is I was a Disney puppeteer.
I
Doesn't
love
that
it.
sound better than a
No.
pig?
Yes. Well, I mean, you were doing full body puppetry. Absolutely.
Full body puppetry. This
I
even
love
got
it.
better.
I
Thank you,
love
John.
it. Okay, our next question. This is from the book of Obscure Sorrows. I don't know if you know this book, but it's a book filled with random strange words taken from different languages and all around the world. And so I pick a word and you and Stephanie guess or make up its meaning. Okay, ready?
Okay.
The word is a noun and it is called lock-heartedness.
Lock-heartedness. Ooh. My first gut would be, or instinct would be to say it's somebody who is very certain on a feeling or emotion.
Oh, I'm going with emotion too, obviously with the heartedness, but mine is it's that state where you take in an inhale and you're so overwhelmed that it sits between your throat and your heart, and you
Ooh.
can't exhale for a while until, your heartbeat regulates itself. That is lock-heartedness.
Oh,
Ooh,
wow.
love
That was a
that.
good, Steph has good ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Her answers are almost as good as her intros on this little word game. Okay. It is a noun, and it is the atmosphere of camaraderie when you're stuck together with people in a certain place, like a stalled elevator or sheltering during a storm or a sleeper cart or train. It leaves them no other option but to be present with each other, with nowhere else to go and nobody else to be.
Oh, I love
Our
that.
line of Space Mountain was lock-heartedness.
Lock-heartedness.
You were forced to over 2 hours to just be and stand there with each other.
Or
I
you
like
inside
that.
of Pfeiffer.
That's right. Or
Inside of
when
him
you are
for
stuck
an
inside of
hour.
a pig head. All right, it's you again, ML, because I've done two.
Describe for me your perfect sandwich.
Oh God, that's difficult. Okay. Well, I don't eat meat anymore, but
Oh.
when I ate meat, I used to love a good Italian hoagie. And I grew up in South Jersey and then lived right outside of Philadelphia for a while. And they know how to make a damn good Italian hoagie there. It's got to be on that like really fresh Italian bread, like Italian, what do you call that? Yeah, like that Italian bread.
Yeah, like a little mini loaf. Yeah.
Like a loaf, like a hoagie loaf, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be perfectly sliced down the middle. It's got to have a little bit of oil and vinegar. So
Oh, yeah.
provolone cheese. You got to have like a bunch of different
Prosciutto.
Oh, definitely prosciutto. Yeah,
Gotta have prosciutto.
You guys, the Pfeiffer pig in me is curdling. She's curdling up.
I mean, sorry, Pfeiffer, but yeah, right. And like that like stringy lettuce.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Tomato, a lot of mayo.
I'm
like
so hungry.
I know, like I literally just got so hungry thinking about that. I haven't eaten meat in 16 years, so I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Like, but now I'm like, wait a minute, no.
Oh, that's so good for the environment. Good on you. Really good on you. All right, the last question. If you were a nail polish color, what's the color and what's the cheeky little name of that color?
Oh my gosh. I would be a glittery blue. because blue is
Mm.
a color and I love glitter. And what would be the name? Sassy Sparkle.
Oh, Sassy. Meet my Aunt Sassy Sparkle.
You kind of are a sassy sparkle. You know
I
that?
know.
You
You're
really
just
are.
delightful in every
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
I,
Thank
I
you for coming on this
adore the two of
cast.
you. No, I'm so thrilled. I adore the two of you, and I love that you're doing this, and I think it's such an important podcast, and you inspire so many people. So it's
Oh,
happy to be part of this.
that's
And
nice of you to say.
congratulations on season 2 of
Mm-hmm.
Fraggle Rock. Back to the Rock.
Apple TV Plus, check it out.
Yes, let's bring in a season 3, y'all. He needs to,
Yeah.
well, I don't want you to die of frostbite. But other than that, season 3. Season
You know
3.
what? You guys will come up while we're filming. I'll put you in like the warmest winter clothing you can have, and you'll come see it for yourself. Season
I would
three.
I'd
love
love
that.
to watch. Me
I would really
too.
love that.
Me
Done
too.
and done. Done.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Have a beautiful day. Thank you. We stay on and chat about you for a little while.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
heading out. I love you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Love you too.
Coming up next, what struck a chord? Oh my gosh, I really kind of do love him.
See?
Oh my
See?
gosh. Oh my gosh. He's like
These
all
are-
sparkly and warm and lovable, and
And
he
these
just gives you the gooeyes.
creatives.
Which wasn't there a word about something that gave us like the warm fuzzies?
Yeah. This
Oh,
is the problem with the words. We forget them
I
as soon
forget
as they
them.
come. They're so genius. And then you're like,
Mhm.
oh,
What was that word
remember that
again?
word? But this is the joy of being a human, I guess. I was going to say an artist, but I bet you this happens in every field. That there are brilliant people creating brilliant things that necessarily their names aren't splashed all over a billboard sign, or
Mm,
they're not at the Academy Awards, but they are making important
mm,
things that have
mhm.
brought so much joy into our homes. And I love meeting them in a long form interview because they're so much more than just a name on a credit or, oh, look, he's the creative general manager of such and such. And you get to have these conversations and go, oh, he's so special. You're a special human being
You
that
know,
has
it's
now inspired me in ways that I wasn't even expecting to awaken myself to today.
and you don't know how long his work, his puppetry, his words will stay with kids. I mean, I
Right.
remember songs from Sesame Street when I was a little kid. Abba Dabba Chuckle Manaka Stew, it's the most exciting word I ever heard. I can still sing it, and I
Yeah.
didn't watch really that particular one with said, but it lives inside you and it awakens parts of you. And so what I hope he knows is that he's shaping children and giving them
Yes.
freedom to sing and dance and move and dream and imagine and
It's a
play.
lasting impression, a real
Mhm.
lasting impression.
So
I didn't
cool.
mention this in the body of the interview, but I remember one of my favorite Christmas gifts. And maybe we did mention this on a Christmas episode, but my sister and I decided we were going to sleep by the fireplace, hopefully to catch Santa. And I had sponge rollers in my hair with like a little scarf over it. And we had our flannel pajamas in our sleeping bags. And on my list that year, my big present was I wanted a Miss Piggy and a Kermit puppet. And I woke up and they were literally lying beside me. And I wore those puppets on my hands far more than any child should. And I'll tell you, I felt safer having them there. They were like, compadres. They could be the voice of me when I wasn't brave enough to speak, or when I didn't even want to be noticed. I could create my own world and disappear into the world with these two friends that I had now created. And I loved those puppets. And, what he was talking about, it goes far deeper than just, having a toy. It was really a friendship, a partnership, a place to escape, all because of those two little puppets Santa brought me that year.
Yeah.
Really special memories.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You say Jim Henson to anyone, they're either gonna touch their chest or smile or tell you a memory. So to say that you're with the Jim Henson Company, what a
So cool.
wonderful, yes.
He's sort of the next generation of the Jim Hensons and the Mr. Rogers. He's the
Oh my
next guy.
God, wow. There's no higher compliment. No higher compliment. Anyway, thank you so much, John, for coming on. And everybody, if You got to check out the show on Apple Plus. But also on SiriusXM Broadway. Every Sunday, he presents his favorite Broadway tunes. He tells great stories. They're so descriptive and fun to listen to, obviously, as a voice artist. So listen to his show on Sirius as well.
I love it. All right.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.